Poetry is the bark of alliteration. And so the first poet up is who? Who is the poet? Who is that poet?
We have many here. Poon? Okay. You need help Poon needs help getting out of her shade. You got it? Okay.
For East River Park. We're here to save our park. Here comes Poon. Yay.
We ready?
Do you want to stand on?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This poem is about, I think so, no? How is this?
That's good.
Okay. I was walking by First Avenue and saw someone had thrown out a big bag of Dunkin' Donuts. This is a poem about that. Donuts in the night, the ones no one came for, even though just a few hours ago they were warm and flush with yeast. That pretty glazed one, such a shame. There is even delicate tissue to preserve her and keep her fresh. Her enriched wheat flour, her natural flavor, her esters of fatty acids. Whatever it is, something tells you no. Go home. There will be more donuts tomorrow, and maybe even munchkins. Snow White with jelly gushing out. This one, this one is, okay. You are the male-female deity, Arterish Vara. Around your neck a scarf of bejeweled serpents. In your lady hand a mirror held up to reflect your man face. Behind your right shoulder, your common elliptical halo floats under a crescent moon. With your shared third eye, see yourselves split. Then watch them embrace, as if it is for the first time ever, with all four arms. And this is about a love poem about CVS. The time we held hands and walked to CVS on 23rd Street, and they duct taped a microphone to my heart. Your feet picked up the sounds and turned them into pot de berets, down and dirty pot de berets that crunched into the ground like dead leaves, and cracked and exhaled when I opened a silver cold can of Coke, the real sugar kind, purchased with your extra bucks and 30% off one item. Leaf thins, big lighters, anything that could buy us extra fizz and time. Thank you.
Hi everybody, and I want to thank my friends who lent me a phone. My phone's got sacrificed to the party gods this weekend, so I don't have a phone today. I always read Allen Ginsberg when I'm thinking about trees. So, this is called Tears from 1956. I'm crying all the time now. I cried all over the street when I left Seattle Wobbly Hall. I cried listening to Bach. I cried looking at the happy flowers in my backyard. I cried at the sadness of the middle-aged trees. Happiness exists, I feel it. I cried for my soul. I cried for the world's soul. The world has a beautiful soul, God appearing to be seen and cried forever. Overflowing Heart of Patterson, Arctic, 1956. So, for the trees, I hope we're not going to be crying soon. Thank you. Peace. Thank you.
Okay, this is just the title of something that I'm writing. So this is the title. The dancing in of past, present, and future is a shaking, is a way of transforming this place we are caught up in. This place of knowing only one way of knowing. Of forced worldview, of bunkers on mountains, of concrete levees, of rising heat, of 1,000 dead trees, of nothing in promise. No sound of bee or bird or place to fish or carry on. For career, for nothing real, for what you have been sold, for a future you. This is land, this is water, this is air, this is Lenapehoking. This is for you, Carlina Rivera, Council Member District 2, Manhattan, destroyer of East River Park.
Blasio song, and Sandy and I are going to sing it, right? I have the lyrics typed up.
All right,
Okay. So, I didn't write this. Emily Dickinson did. She's a little better than me. Okay.
hold it closer back.
Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And that's what we need, hope and action.
Yeah!
Really, very.
Okay, I read this before, but it's the only thing that I have directly related to the park, which seems like every morning I walk back and forth, I guess 5 or 6 miles past the park and north of Manhattan Bridge from Stuytown. Okay, prayer for East River Park. Who are those warped, lazy, ill-informed hacks who want to obliterate my park? Okay, maybe it's ill-mannered and counterproductive to begin a prayer with attack. So, brethren, please save the park, where I walked 6 miles almost every morning during the pandemic and discovered that watching birds in flight made my day. New York City needs protection against hurricanes and floods, but cutting down 992 trees in East River Park is murder. Many alternative forms of flood control instead of the genocide of native flora and fauna have been presented. Local officials, please unplug your ears, stuff the grits of make no waves, and open your eyes to the beauty of the sunrise. I beg you, find another way. I beg you, bless the park. Observe the cormorants, dogs, dog walkers, children playing, daffodils, gulls gliding, seagulls posing on a fence for me and my camera, families barbecuing, sunrise over the water, the beautiful poisonous orange sun lighted by the West Coast wildfires, guy who plays the sax every morning near the baseball field, red-tailed hawk munching on a pigeon, neighborhood folks rallying in the amphitheater to save the park. The East River Park Amphitheater, built in 1941, will be destroyed. The New York Shakespeare Festival first began in the amphitheater. Honor the ghost of Joe Patton and Shakespeare's Caesar. The Lenape people weeping for the death of 992 trees. Is the elderly Asian woman who meditates on the grass early every morning, weeping for the birds who crave those trees. Do dead trees become ghosts? Comet yellowthroat hovering over a chrysanthemum. And what I think, one thing that we could do is everybody could list 5 things that the park means to them and do something with that long, gigantic list. Send it to the appropriate people and send it to Blasio and tell them to shove it up his ass. And I'll just read one more thing. It's to my granddaughter. I wrote this and then I didn't look at it and I just grabbed it, so see what it is. It's to my granddaughter born during the pandemic, Rosa, born during, you're born during a pandemic.
Yay! Take your time.
An infant smarts. It was fun. It was. Think of something else.
You're just struggling, it's good. Good time.
You gotta think about the net game. I'm a fanatic basketball fan, and maybe I can think about that and then read the poem. It's my great ashamed that I never got a college basketball scholarship. I had this fantasy that I was going to be a sophomore. Okay. On Zoom, an infant smile. It was months before we could before we visited you live, and 3 weeks more before we could hold you. My granddaughter. Limitless, without aspiration, until wearing your owl-faced pajamas, you set your mind to wandering off to explore the contours of an abstract dome-shaped toy, pop-up board books, and rubber giraffe that squeaks. Often you taste your toys before your fingers groom their surface, traveling from room to room, dangers abound and attract, as if you were a 10-foot-inch point guard challenging a big man, or a second lieutenant contemplating an action rather than a cause. Wires adhered to walls, water boiling on the stove, pointing knobs on drawers. Is there anything ever known before encountered? In a photo, an infant smiles. That's going to be me. My parents proclaim they'd wake me any time, day or night, and I smile too. This was the Second World War, when American Jews sought relief any way they could. Dad, a sociological explanation, any use, coming to terms with how fearful and constrained a kid I was? Of course, it's imagination, reconstructing what I know in my guts. Memory is unreliable before language. If I were permitted to crawl about, allowed to explore and run my fingers around the contours of objects that might break, we may never have been mutually humiliated when I was unable to bait a hook on a fishing line or was late learning to tie my shoes. What is the ratio between fear and contentment? Numerator inborn, denominator inculcated by those who love you. Yes, it was when I first discovered in the 3rd grade that I was the fastest runner for my age that I smiled knowingly. How fortunate to grow up human. Just a little more. iPhone in hand, I snap a photo of a cormorant. Wings spread wide, aloft the pole, left from an abandoned pan. Rosa, this is dawn before the pandemic. It was dawn in East River Park. I'd have thought a cormorant would dry its wings exclusively when a day's heat approached. 5:30 a.m. and already I am granted a vision. A creature, heart shining in the dark, presenting its essence before diving beneath the surface of the water in search of a fish. This morning before the sun has risen, the park along the East River is empty, the sky orange, cradling a cloud red as a lobster. I, who hardly ever took a photo pre-COVID, capture water taxis and barges on the river. This is what I do during the pandemic, walking the city, snapping images of everything that drifts my way, carrying thoughts that ripple from scenes into poems. Thank you.
Yeah! Barry! Hey, that was Barry.
Yeah.
It's Diane.
Yeah.
Amazing. Diane is here.
Hi, Diane.
Yay.
Hello everyone, I'm Diane. Thank you. My name is Diane. I actually live right across the street from the park. I have 2 children and we go to the park nearly every day. And that you guys are doing this is spectacular. I could imagine more people being here, the fact that so many people go there, right? But anyways, I just want to read this really quickly. It's called God Loves Trees. Other than people and God, trees are the most mentioned in the Living Bible. They are trees in the first chapter of Genesis, and in the first Psalm, and on the last page of Revelation. So beginning, middle, and end. As an underscore, all these trees, the Bible refers to as wisdom of a tree. Every major character in the major theological event in the Bible has an associated tree. The only exception to this pattern is Joseph. And in Joseph's case, the Bible pays him a high compliment, saying Joseph is a tree. In fact, Jeremiah urges all believers to be like a tree. The physical description of Jesus in the Bible occurs in Isaiah. Want to recognize the Messiah when he arrives? Isaiah asks, look for a man who resembles a little growing out of a bearing ground. You think trees are beautiful? You're in good company. Thank you so much.
That was Diane. That was so awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane.
We have Marcella with a call.
Marcella!
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out. So I wrote this poem about a year and a half ago, and I mailed it to all of the politicians involved in this horrendous plan. I did get one anonymous response telling me that they're going to turn the trees into nice furniture that we can enjoy and remember the trees by. No! I mean, really. So I sent the letter. It's Dear Mayor Bill de Blasio, and I named it East River Park Oak Tree after Marianne Moore's The Camper Down Elm, which she wrote years ago to save this elm that they were going to cut down in Prospect Park, and I dedicated that way to kind of feel like poetry can do something once in a while. Dear Mayor Bill de Blasio, I choose as my tree an oak that stands somewhat alone in a triangular lawn-like space facing the East River in East River Park, which is slated to be demolished this coming spring per your opaque and confusing plans to, at some point, protect the Lower East Side from flooding during superstorms. The oak is large, surprisingly large, meaning that it must also be old, but probably not older than the park's original construction in the 1930s. So, if it were allowed to continue to grow in 100 more years, it would be enormous, a real presence, a landmark, a tree to treasure and remember, an enlightened city administration that made the decision against money and power, against real estate interests and colonialist mentality to cherish and protect it. I stood by this oak for a long time a few weeks ago during what seemed the worst days of the pandemic. I noticed on its bark many ants and spiders. You would never notice them until you had, like me, stood and watched the tree for more than the few minutes the consultants for the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project have spent in the park in order to determine that it has no wildlife to speak of. I have often found that when it comes to nature, you have to wait and let it come to you. Like how Thoreau looked into a dark room and waited patiently until his pupil expanded enough that he could see into the darkness. I lay down in the grass under the oak and gazed up to the tips of its branches. A bright red bird flew in and among them. I thought at first it was an oriole, but found out later it was a scarlet tanager. What an amazing color to see so high up amid the green from so far down in the ground. A large tan bird then flew in circles over the tree, and I wondered idly, because I was getting sleepy, as I tend to do when lying in grass under a tree, why a seagull was flying in circles over a tall oak tree, and why a smaller bird seemed to be chasing it away. Then my mind clicked back into place, and I realized it was no seagull, but a red-tailed hawk, and that the smaller bird, maybe a crow or a starling, was chasing it out of its territory. The oak has traces of graffiti on its trunk, and yesterday a young man pulled up next to it on his bike and settled in to read, leaning against the trunk with a book that he often put down to gaze around him, at the river, at the light on the river, at people. Sitting, playing, talking, or like him, gazing at the silvery blue of the river in the afternoon light. I'm sure he found the shade as pleasant as I did. The oak tree provides enough shade for so many of us to socially distance ourselves comfortably, while yet protecting us from full sun. Something your plan lacks: mature trees. Therefore, it also lacks shade and the shadows thrown by leaves flickering in the breezes that come in from the ocean. And therefore, it also lacks birds, insects, ant colonies, spiders. Therefore, it lacks hawk, scarlet tanager, blue jay, northern mockingbird, migrating warblers. Therefore, lacks robins pulling worm after worm out from soil deemed disposable by city consultants. Instead, sterile landfill is to be piled 8 feet high over the earthworms and grubs curled into little balls my son finds when he helps plant daffodil bulbs in the fall. So much lack in your plan. Lack of community input, lack of stakeholder engagement, stakeholders being all of us neighbors here now. Lack of what could be instead be more green space over a 6-lane highway that creates so much pollution and noise all day and all night and all day and all night. Lack of choices, lack of a vision to create flood protection over the highway instead of over our park, and such a lack of love for old trees. The grass underneath the oak is so pleasant enough to dream of a city that might value such trees and value the quality of all life. A city that might appreciate our community living on a small peninsula off the island of Manhattan, a hook, a slight protuberance into the river, far away from the subway and with fewer schools and hardly any parks or gardens any larger than a city block. A community comprised of many different people doing many different things, sometimes getting along, sometimes not, but negotiating together toward a civic existence that might include fresh air, light, and a place to play, think, read, breathe in a neighborhood otherwise crushed between a bridge and a highway. To dream of a city that might see no good reason to cut down an oak tree ever. Sincerely, Marcella Duran, Lower East Side, New York City. Marcella Duran. Do we have another poet here?
The next poet. Sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn. The sound of the belched words of my voice loose to the eddies of the wind. A few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms. The play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag. The delight alone, or in the rush of the streets, or along the fields and hillsides. The feeling of help, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and the sun. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the specters in books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself.
Yeah!
You got one? All right.
You want to go up?
Come on over, Taj.
Yeah.
It's our very own Taj.
Yes.
Taj, what's your last name? Hooligan. Taj Hooligan.
Let's go, Taj.
Here he is. Taj.
Yep. It's whiskey.
Hurricane Sandy did kill East River Park, New York City. Well, we need a clean plan, not an explanation. Decide. Soon, New York City will
Take your time.
demolition of big villa park on the ugly side of the Lower East Side in East River. Everything must go shine. Long taking areas, ball field, running track. I make here the compost lawn, history, buildings, and 1,000 trees. This is determined to go ahead with the message. This ESCR East Side posting of East Side project event. There are elders that could cloud presence much of our park and food control. Under the correct plan, the city will build a 1.2-mile well along the water cover in the Lenape Park with 8 feet of fill. Everything, a new park will be built on top of this level.
All right, thanks, Todd.
Thanks, guys.
Save our parks!
Mayor de Blasio and members of the City Council from New Yorkers, the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Regarding Esther, 6 simple questions. 1. Why were New Yorkers not entitled to see the Esther plan to demolish their park before the City Council voted on it? A. Stony silence. B. Voters don't have those rights in this town. C. None of your business. D. Other. 2. Why is Esther configured to How is Esther configured to deal with rainwater, like the dumping we just got from Ida? A. B. It isn't. C. Can I get back to you on that? D. Other. 3. Will Esther definitely last till 2050? A. No. B. Maybe, maybe not. C. Can I get, etc. D. Other. 4. Why did it take 2 lawsuits paid for by New Yorkers to produce, after the city first said it didn't exist, a heavily redacted version of Esther? The answers to number 1, and now we know the courts. 5. Esther calls for the park to be lifted with 8.5 feet of industrialized material. What exactly is going to be in that stuff, and what does industrialized mean anyway? A. Don't ask, don't tell. B. None of your business. C. Deny, etc. D. Other. 6. How long will the project take to complete? A. 3 to 6 years. B. That's a joke question, right? C. Can I get back to other? Thank you.
Yeah.
We can do it. Power to the people.
Marilyn, thank you. Oh, actually, let's say the words for them so they can speak it. Right. Oh, when will de Blasio go? He likes his buildings, nothing more. He can't sell our city anymore, because that's the way things are. Here's $1 in my hand. It makes de Blasio steal our land. He's got no poem. He's got no band. So why does he get to steal our land? He lies and lies and lies. He lies and lies and lies. He lies and lies and lies. So again, now we're singing it again. Oh, when will de Blasio go? He likes his buildings and nothing more. He can't sell our city anymore, 'cause that's the way things are. Here's $1 in my hand. It makes de Blasio steal our land. He's got no poem, he's got no band. So
save it.
Yep.